History paints pirates as simple criminals who spent their days hunting treasure and causing chaos. But beneath their fearsome reputation lay a complex culture filled with surprising traditions. These seafaring rebels had their own unique way of solving life's problems. Take their iconic jewelry, for instance. Every piece of their signature look had a purpose, and their earrings might have been their cleverest invention of all. During intense naval battles, the deafening roar of cannons could permanently damage a sailor's hearing. Quick-thinking pirates discovered they could melt the wax from their precious metal earrings to create instant earplugs. Next time someone questions your fashion choices, just tell them you're preparing for potential cannon fire. Nearly 70% of captured pirates wore at least one earring, making them as common as weathered boots on deck. But these weren't just random decorations. Many pirates engraved crucial information on their jewelry, like their hometown or ship's name. In an era before dog tags or digital IDs, these small metal circles could mean the difference between a proper burial and being lost at sea forever. But certain Caribbean ports actually used earring styles to identify which region a pirate came from. A simple silver stud might mark someone from the Spanish Main, while an elaborate gold hoop could suggest ties to the Barbary Coast. It was like a primitive form of social media. Your earring told everyone where you'd been and who you sailed with. The most resourceful pirates even used their earrings as emergency currency. When you're thousands of miles from home and need to bribe a harbor master or buy supplies, having valuable metal attached to your ears proves surprisingly convenient. Although, one has to wonder how many pirates had to choose between keeping their hearing protection and getting out of sticky situations. As clever as these metallic accessories were, pirates had even more ingenious tricks up their sleeves. Long before military-grade night vision, pirates discovered their own clever solution for seeing in the dark: the tactical eye patch. Most people think pirates wore patches because they lost eyes in dramatic sword fights. The truth? Those patches usually covered perfectly good eyes, making pirates probably the first people in history to deliberately handicap their vision to see better. Ship battles weren't just about dramatic sword fights and yelling "Arr!" The real challenge was moving between the blinding sunshine above deck and the darkness below. The human eye needs about 25 minutes to fully adjust to darkness, an eternity when you're trying to catch someone who just ran off with your treasure chest. More than one pirate learned this lesson by introducing their face to a low-hanging beam. Their solution was brilliantly simple: keep one eye permanently adjusted to the dark. Flip the patch up when heading below deck, and that protected eye was ready to go. It was like having a built-in night vision setting, just a lot more fashionable. There's a story about one crew laughing at an approaching one-eyed pirate band, right until those same pirates efficiently raided their cargo hold while they were still stumbling around like drunk penguins. Some creative sailors developed fancy hinged patches that could flip up and down. This innovation worked great until rough seas turned them into self-slapping devices. Nothing ruins your fearsome pirate reputation quite like repeatedly hitting yourself in the face with your own eye patch. The practice became so common that certain ships made a rule about which eye to cover. This came after one embarrassing incident where an entire crew covered the same eye and created what might be history's first recorded group collision with a storage crate. The captain's only comment in the log: "Next time, we alternate." Even proper naval officers started borrowing this technique, though they probably called it something like tactical monocular light adaptation to make it sound more official. Pirates may not have had fancy education, but they knew a good idea when they stole one. While eye patches helped pirates master the darkness, they found even more permanent ways to leave their mark on pirate history. Long before Instagram influencers made body art trendy, pirates were getting inked for far more practical reasons. They discovered tattooing during their Pacific voyages, courtesy of Polynesian cultures who had mastered the art over centuries. Leave it to pirates to turn a cultural exchange at sword point into something mutually beneficial, probably their most successful diplomatic mission ever. Each design carried its own seafaring resume. Anchors weren't just random picks from Cool Sailor Tattoos Monthly. They marked a pirate who'd survived crossing the Atlantic. Ships immortalized vessels they'd served on, while nautical stars worked like an employee badge, showing rank and experience. Mermaids, beyond their obvious appeal, marked experienced navigators who could guide ships through treacherous waters. A skull and crossbones meant you'd outlived a particularly nasty voyage. But what's really interesting is how these floating art galleries actually worked. About 80% of caught pirates had identifying tattoos, making them history's first criminal database. A brilliant pirate got nabbed in Jamaica because he forgot to cover his distinctive mermaid tattoo while playing merchant. His navigation skills apparently better than his acting ones. Some tattoos supposedly packed spiritual punch. Roosters on feet were meant to prevent drowning. These permanent marks proved invaluable when the seas claimed lives. Ship names and port symbols became the original form of maritime identification. One harbor master wrote that his job got much easier when sailors started coming with their own labels, possibly history's first recorded case of proper inventory management. By 1740, having unmarked skin in pirate ports was like showing up to a sword fight with a butter knife. Suspicious and slightly embarrassing. But even with all their inked stories and symbols, pirates discovered that survival at sea required more than just permanent marks. Pirates have created one of history's most fascinating insurance systems. Called Matelotage, this arrangement went far beyond simple friendship. It was a formal partnership between two pirates who shared everything: their possessions, their profits, and even their death benefits. When signing onto a ship, many pirates would immediately seek out a Matelote partner. Ship records from the 1720s show that nearly 40% of crew members entered these agreements, creating a web of mutual support that helped them survive the dangers of pirate life. Think of it as having a designated person to feed your parrot if you happen to meet an unfortunate end. The practical benefits were impressive. Matelote shared their food rations, watched each other's backs in battles, and cared for each other when sick. If one partner died, the other inherited everything, from gold pieces to their prized collection of stolen silk handkerchiefs. Some ships even had written contracts outlining these arrangements, proving pirates were better at paperwork than their rowdy reputation suggests. French authorities found these partnerships so concerning, they tried to disrupt them by introducing women to port cities. Their brilliant plan backfired spectacularly. The pirates simply expanded their matelotage agreements to include spouses, creating history's first three-way inheritance system. These partnerships often lasted longer than marriages of the era. Ship logs mention pairs of matelotes serving together for decades, sharing cabins and splitting their plunder with mathematical precision. The system became so ingrained in pirate culture that some ships wouldn't even hire sailors who didn't have a matelote. Captains found that partnered crews fought better, complained less, and were less likely to steal from each other. Though they obviously had no issue stealing from everyone else. But even the strongest partnerships needed leadership to thrive, and some captains developed truly unforgettable ways to keep their crews in line. One captain's approach to terror changed piracy forever. He didn't just frighten his victims, he created a whole new playbook for psychological warfare at sea. His tactics spread through pirate ports like wildfire, inspiring a generation of captains who realized that fear could be more valuable than gold. What made his methods revolutionary wasn't their complexity, but their theatrical brilliance. He transformed his appearance into a living nightmare, using slow-burning fuses woven into his beard to create an aura of supernatural dread. Ships would spot the smoking figure through the morning mist and surrender before a single shot was fired, proving that sometimes the best weapon was pure imagination. His influence rippled through the Caribbean. Soon other captains began crafting their own terrifying personas. Some painted their faces with ash and blood, usually animal blood, but their victims didn't need to know that. Others dressed entirely in red, a color associated with violent death at sea. One particularly creative captain trained his parrot to screech blood-curdling threats in multiple languages. These psychological tactics changed naval warfare. Merchant vessels started carrying terror payments. Special bribes meant specifically for captains who had mastered the art of fear. It was cheaper to pay off these legendary figures than risk facing their full theatrical fury. Not everyone could pull off such elaborate intimidation. There are plenty of embarrassing attempts, captains who tried to create smoke effects but just ended up coughing, elaborate costumes that got tangled in rigging, and threatening speeches ruined by seasickness. One unfortunate pirate tried to seem more menacing by wearing all black, only to discover that made him an excellent target for sharpshooters. While fear kept enemies at bay, pirates needed something more sustaining for the long weeks at sea. Pirates were known for their love of rum, but their most important drink was actually a clever cocktail called grog. Born from necessity rather than choice, This mixture of rum, water, lemon juice, and sugar did more than just keep sailors tipsy. It kept them alive. The British Navy accidentally invented grog while trying to solve a major problem. Sailors kept dying from scurvy. Their solution? Force everyone to drink citrus juice mixed with their daily rum ration. Pirates, who were often former Navy men, took this idea and improved it by adding sugar to make it actually taste good. Finally, a health drink that didn't taste like medicine. In 1720, the pirates consumed an average of 8 ounces of grog per day, enough to stay buzzed, but not so much they'd fall out of the crow's nest. Each crew had their own special recipe. Some added nutmeg or cinnamon, while others threw in honey or local fruits. The drink served multiple purposes. The alcohol killed harmful bacteria and stored water, the citrus prevented scurvy, and the sugar provided quick energy. Plus, slightly tipsy pirates were generally happier pirates, which meant fewer mutinies. Pirates didn't just drink grog, they turned it into currency. Extra rations were used as rewards for good work or payment for special duties. Some crews even had elaborate grog-based bonus systems. Lost your leg in battle? That's worth 3 extra weeks of grog. Spotted a wealthy merchant ship first? Have an extra cup. Fell asleep during watch duty? No grog for a week, possibly the worst punishment a pirate could face. Interestingly, grog might have helped pirates fight better than their naval counterparts. Navy ships often gave sailors pure rum, leading to drunken chaos during battles. Pirates' watered-down grog kept them in that sweet spot between sober and sloshed, alert enough to swing a sword, but relaxed enough to not care about the odds. While grog kept pirates in good spirits, some crew members found more unexpected ways to boost morale. While most pirate tales focus on men, some of the most successful pirates to ever sail the seas were women who defied every rule and expectation of their time. They didn't just survive in a man's world, they dominated it through cunning, skill, and an understanding of how to use society's underestimation to their advantage. Did you know that at least 20 different women commanded pirate vessels between 1700 and 1730? Most started their careers as stowaways or disguised crew members, revealing their true identities only after proving their worth in battle. One notorious female captain became so successful that merchants would surrender their cargo at the mere mention of her ship's name. Some of these women came from wealthy families, choosing the pirate life over arranged marriages and restricted futures. Others were former military members who had served for years disguised as men. A few began as captives who turned the tables on their captors, eventually taking command of the very ships that had originally taken them prisoner. During one famous capture of a pirate vessel, only 2 crew members fought back against the authorities, both women. The rest of the crew, all men, were too drunk to resist. It was said that they had fought like hellcats, while their male counterparts hid below deck. Even facing execution, they showed more courage than the men they sailed with. Some historians argue that female pirates might have been more common than records suggest. In an era when women were banned from most ships, disguising yourself as a man was often the only way to sail. There were suspicious young men with surprisingly high voices and smooth faces who were never seen without their coats. The success of these women challenged more than just gender roles. It showed how pirate society sometimes offered more opportunities for advancement than the rigid social structures of colonial powers. Pirates cared more about ability than background. While these fierce women carved their place in maritime history, their enemies faced consequences that would make anyone think twice about crossing their path. Forget walking the plank. That's just a Hollywood invention. Real pirate punishments were far more creative and brutal. When it came to dealing with traitors, thieves, or unfortunate captives, pirates developed a system of penalties that made even hardened sailors think twice about breaking their codes. The most feared punishment was keel hauling, a practice so terrible that even the toughest pirates would pale at its mention. The unlucky victim would be tied to a rope and dragged under the ship's keel from one side to the other. This might sound merely unpleasant until you consider that ship bottoms were covered in razor-sharp barnacles that would shred anything dragged across them. Few survived the experience, and those who did probably wished they hadn't. Ship records revealed that different pirate crews had their own favorite punishments. Some preferred marooning, abandoning wrongdoers on deserted islands with limited supplies. The standard kit was usually a pistol with 1 shot, a small water flask, and just enough food to make the victim think about their life choices. One captain got creative and left a guilty crew member with plenty of food and water, but no way to open any of the containers. Another common punishment involved being tied to the mast during storms. This might sound mild compared to keel hauling, but imagine being strapped to a pole while waves crash over you and wind-blown debris turns into deadly projectiles. One sailor who survived this punishment only to develop such a fear of rain that he would hide below deck during even mild drizzles. For minor offenses, pirates got surprisingly administrative. They dock your pay, assign extra work shifts, or, perhaps worst of all, reduce your grog rations. There was a sailor who got caught stealing had to serve as the captain's personal parrot keeper for a month. Considering the bird's habit of mimicking curse words at the worst possible moments, this was probably more punishment than they'd planned. The most unusual documented punishment involved a thief being forced to eat an entire wheel of stolen cheese in one sitting while the crew watched and critiqued his technique. The ship's log notes that he never stole food again, though he also never ate cheese again. Pirates even had specific punishments for specific crimes. Lying about your sailing experience could get you assigned to crow's nest duty during the worst weather. Cheating at cards might result in your hammock being accidentally soaked with seawater every night for a week. Starting fights without good reason often led to the troublemakers being tied back to back and left to figure out how to move around the ship together. But physical punishment wasn't the only way pirates maintained control of the seas. They developed another method of spreading terror that would become their most enduring legacy. Before a single shot was fired, pirates used their flags to wage psychological warfare. The infamous Jolly Roger wasn't just a simple skull and crossbones. It was part of an elaborate system of naval communication that could tell entire stories with a single piece of cloth. Each pirate captain customized their flag to create a unique brand of terror. Some added hourglasses to show victims their time was running out. Others included bleeding hearts, suggesting no mercy would be given. There's a creative captain who added a skeleton holding a spear and an hourglass, basically saying, "Surrender now or die later." The message wasn't exactly subtle, but subtlety wasn't really what they were going for. Different flags meant different things. A black flag meant surrender and you might live. A red flag meant no quarter given. Fight and you're definitely not making it home for dinner. Some captains even carried multiple flags, switching between them depending on their mood or how much resistance they expected. Creating these flags required serious artistic skill. Pirates would hire professional flag makers in port cities, paying top dollar for designs that would stand out in sea battles. One captain reportedly traded an entire chest of Spanish silver for a particularly intricate design, only to have it mistaken for a child's bedsheet during its first use. He quickly switched back to the classic skull and bones. The flags worked surprisingly well as a fear tactic. About 70% of merchant ships would surrender immediately upon seeing a well-known pirate flag. Smart captains actually preferred this. It saved on ammunition costs and reduced the risk of damaging valuable cargo. After all, why waste gunpowder when a scary piece of fabric does the job? Not every attempt at flag-based intimidation succeeded. One unlucky crew tried to create a new design featuring a fearsome sea monster, but the artist's skills weren't quite up to the task. The result looked more like an angry octopus having a bad hair day. Another captain's attempt at depicting a flaming skeleton ended up looking like a stick figure at a barbecue. While these flags struck fear into merchant ships, pirates found unique ways to make their vessels feel more like home. Forget everything you know about pirates and parrots. While these colorful birds did occasionally grace pirate ships, the true menagerie aboard these vessels would have made any zookeeper raise an eyebrow. Pirates kept a surprising array of animals that served both practical purposes and provided much-needed entertainment during long voyages. Cats ruled the pirate ship hierarchy of pets. These weren't just mascots. They were essential crew members in charge of rat control. A good ship's cat could save more cargo from damage than a dozen sailors. Records show that some cats were so valued that they earned their own share of plunder. One skilled mouser was listed in a ship's log as receiving 2 gold pieces and a silver cup as her share of a successful raid. Monkeys became popular additions to pirate crews after raids on merchant ships trading with Africa and South America. These clever animals could climb rigging faster than any sailor and reach places humans couldn't. Some captains trained their monkeys to snatch small valuables during raids, like living furry pickpockets. Though occasionally these simian thieves had their own ideas about who should keep the shiny treasures they found. Surprisingly, many pirate ships maintained small flocks of chickens. These birds provided a steady supply of fresh eggs, making them worth their weight in gold during long voyages. Ship records mention heated arguments over chicken ownership and egg distribution rights. One captain established a complex rotation system for egg allocation that was longer than his ship's actual code of conduct. The more ambitious pirates tried keeping goats for milk and meat. This usually worked fine until the goats decided to eat the ship's ropes or important maps. There was a frustrated captain trading his demon goat for supplies after it ate his best hat and 3 navigational charts. Even more exotic pets found their way aboard. Everything from parrots teaching profanity to multiple crews to a small bear that one captain insisted was an oversized ship's dog. One particularly eccentric pirate kept a tortoise as his good luck charm, claiming it helped him navigate. Given that tortoises have excellent natural compasses, he might have been onto something. These animals did more than just serve practical purposes. They became part of the crew's family. Letters home sometimes mentioned pets more than fellow sailors, but perhaps most telling was how pirates treated their animal companions' deaths. Ship logs record proper burials at sea for fallen pets, complete with small ceremonies and tributes. These furry and feathered crew members helped make harsh lives at sea a bit more bearable, adding unexpected moments of joy between the battles and storms.